The year was 2147, and humanity had stretched its reach far beyond Earth. Dozens of star systems now hosted colonies, each one a testament to human determination and ingenuity. Among these distant outposts was Epsilon 9, a planet cloaked in mystery. Its thick atmosphere made it difficult for satellites to gather clear images, and strange electromagnetic disturbances interfered with any attempts at communication. Despite these challenges, the planet's potential intrigued scientists back on Earth. Energy signatures detected from orbit hinted at something extraordinary, something that demanded further investigation. Aboard the SS Horizon Asterisk, a small research team prepared for descent. Leading the mission was Dr. Emily Parker, a seasoned astrobiologist known for her calm demeanor under pressure. She stood at the helm of the ship, gazing out at the swirling clouds below. Beside her was Alex Carter, an engineer who always seemed to have a solution for every problem. His hands moved quickly over the control panel as he adjusted the ship's stabilizers. Nearby, Rachel Monroe, a biologist with a sharp mind and an insatiable curiosity, reviewed data logs while Jake Harrison, the pilot, guided the vessel through turbulent winds. As they broke through the dense cloud layer, the surface of Epsilon 9 came into view. It was unlike anything they had seen before. Towering crystalline structures jutted out of the ground like jagged teeth, shimmering faintly under the dim light of the planet's distant sun. The air was heavy with an eerie stillness, broken only by the hum of their equipment. "This place feels wrong," Jake muttered, his voice barely audible over the ship's engines. No one replied, but the sentiment hung in the air like a shadow. Once the ship touched down, the team wasted no time setting up their base camp near one of the larger crystal formations. Emily supervised the deployment of sensors while Alex worked on assembling a portable lab. Rachel wandered closer to the crystals, her eyes wide with wonder. Up close, the structures were even more mesmerizing. They pulsed faintly, almost rhythmically, as if alive. Reaching out cautiously, she brushed her fingers against the cool surface. A sudden surge of static crackled in her earpiece, startling her. "Did anyone else hear that?" she asked, glancing around nervously. Back at the camp, Alex noticed something odd. His tools, which moments ago had been functioning perfectly, were now behaving erratically. Readings fluctuated wildly, and some devices shut off entirely without warning. He tapped on the screen of his tablet, trying to reset it. "Probably just interference," he said aloud, though doubt lingered in his tone. Even Jake, seated inside the ship, couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Shadows danced at the edge of his vision, fleeting movements that vanished when he turned to look. Night fell quickly on Epsilon 9, blanketing the landscape in darkness. The team gathered inside the habitat module, sharing a meal and discussing the day's findings. But sleep didn't come easily. Outside, the wind howled softly, carrying with it faint whispers that seemed to echo around the camp. At first, Emily dismissed them as tricks of the mind, born from exhaustion and isolation. Yet, as the hours dragged on, the whispers grew louder, more distinct. They weren't random sounds. They formed patterns, almost like words, though none of them could decipher their meaning. It wasn't until morning that the first real sign of trouble appeared. Rachel woke to find her sample containers scattered across the lab floor. Nothing else was disturbed, but there, near the doorway, was a single footprint pressed into the thin layer of dust. It wasn't human. Fear began to creep into their thoughts. What had they stumbled upon? And what did it want from them? End of document. The next morning, the team gathered near the habitat module to discuss what had happened during the night. Rachel pointed to the footprint in the dust, her voice trembling slightly as she described how her equipment had been disturbed. "It wasn't just the wind," she insisted. "Something was here." Emily crouched beside the mark, studying it closely. It was larger than a human foot, but oddly shaped, with faint ridges that didn't match any known animal species. Alex snapped a few photos with his tablet, though the readings from his scanner remained frustratingly inconclusive. Jake leaned against the ship, arms crossed and eyes scanning the horizon. He hadn't mentioned the shadows he'd seen the previous evening, not wanting to sound paranoid. But now, as he stared at the towering crystal structures surrounding them, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. "We should stay close to the camp," he suggested, breaking the silence. "At least until we figure out what's going on." Despite their unease, the group decided to press forward with their research. They split into pairs, with Emily and Alex heading toward one of the larger crystal formations, while Rachel and Jake explored the area closer to the ship. As Emily and Alex approached the towering structure, they noticed something strange about its surface. Tiny fractures ran along the edges, glowing faintly with an inner light. Emily reached out cautiously, running her fingers over the smooth surface. The glow intensified briefly before fading again. "It's reacting to touch," she murmured, excitement mingling with caution in her voice. Alex adjusted his scanner, trying to capture data from the anomaly. But once again, his tools faltered, displaying erratic readings that made no sense. Frustrated, he tapped the device harder, muttering under his breath. "This place is messing with everything," he said finally, shoving the scanner back into his pocket. Meanwhile, Rachel and Jake wandered through the rocky terrain, searching for signs of life beyond the crystals. Rachel knelt by a patch of moss-like vegetation, growing near the base of a smaller crystal tower. She carefully collected samples, noting how the plants seemed to shimmer faintly in the dim light. "Look at this," she said, holding up a leaf-like fragment. "It's unlike anything I've ever seen." Jake nodded absently, his attention focused elsewhere. He kept glancing over his shoulder, certain he'd caught movement out of the corner of his eye. As the day wore on, the whispers returned. At first, they were soft and distant, almost imperceptible. But soon, they grew louder, more insistent. Rachel froze mid-step, clutching her sample bag tightly. "Do you hear that?" she whispered, turning to Jake. He nodded grimly, his hand instinctively reaching for the utility knife strapped to his belt. The sound was coming from all directions, swirling around them like a ghostly chorus. Back at the main crystal formation, Emily and Alex also heard the whispers. They exchanged worried glances, unsure whether to retreat or continue investigating. "Maybe it's some kind of natural phenomenon," Alex offered weakly, though even he didn't sound convinced. Emily shook her head. "No, this isn't random. There's intelligence behind it." By late afternoon, the team regrouped at the habitat module. Everyone shared their observations, piecing together fragments of information. Rachel described the glowing plants, while Emily recounted the crystal's reaction to touch. Jake admitted to seeing fleeting shadows, and Alex showed them the bizarre footprint photo. Together, they began forming theories, though none felt entirely satisfying. That night, tensions ran high. The team stayed inside the habitat module, keeping the lights on and weapons within reach. Outside, the wind picked up, carrying with it the same eerie whispers that had haunted them since their arrival. Then, just as exhaustion began to weigh down their eyelids, a loud crack echoed through the air. It came from somewhere nearby, close enough to send chills down their spines. Jake grabbed a flashlight and cautiously opened the door. The beam of light cut through the darkness, illuminating nothing but empty ground. But there, etched into the dirt just a few feet away, were more footprints. They formed a trail leading toward the largest crystal tower, the one Emily and Alex had examined earlier. Whatever was out there wasn't hiding anymore, and it wanted them to follow. *** End of document ***. The discovery of the new footprints left the team unsettled but determined. Jake stood at the entrance of the habitat module, his flashlight casting long shadows across the rocky terrain. The trail led directly toward the largest crystal tower, its jagged silhouette looming ominously in the dim light. "We can't ignore this," Emily said firmly, her voice cutting through the tension. "If we want answers, we need to follow it." Alex hesitated, gripping his scanner tightly. Or it could be leading us into a trap, he countered, glancing nervously at the dark expanse around them. Rachel stepped forward, clutching her sample bag. Whatever it is, it's been watching us since we got here. Staying put won't make it go away. Her words carried a quiet resolve that surprised even herself. After a brief pause, Jake nodded and tightened his grip on the flashlight. "Let's stick together, then," he said. "No one goes off alone." The group moved cautiously along the trail, their footsteps crunching softly against the dry ground. The air felt heavier as they approached the towering crystal, its faint glow pulsing rhythmically like a heartbeat. Emily reached out instinctively, brushing her fingers against its surface. This time, the reaction was immediate. A low hum filled the air, resonating deep within their chests. Alex's scanner buzzed wildly, lights flashing in every direction. "It's reacting again," he muttered, trying to steady his trembling hands. "But I can't tell what's causing it." As they circled the base of the structure, something caught Rachel's eye. Embedded within the crystal were strange markings, delicate patterns etched into the translucent material. She leaned closer, squinting to make out the details. "These look intentional," she whispered, tracing the lines with her finger, "like some kind of language." Jake shone his flashlight over the markings, revealing intricate symbols that seemed to shift slightly under the light. "If this is writing, we're dealing with something way smarter than we thought," he said, his voice tinged with awe. Suddenly, the hum grew louder, almost deafening. The ground beneath their feet vibrated gently, and the crystals around them began to glow brighter. Emily raised her hand to shield her eyes from the intensifying light. "We need to back up," she urged, taking a step backward. But before they could retreat, the vibrations stopped abruptly. Silence fell over the area, so complete that it felt unnatural. Then came the shadow. It darted between two nearby crystal towers, moving too quickly for any of them to get a clear look. Jake swung his flashlight toward the movement, but the beam revealed nothing. "Did you see that?" he asked sharply, his voice rising. Everyone nodded, their faces pale with fear. Whatever it wasn't human. The shadow reappeared moments later, closer this time. It lingered just beyond the edge of the light, its form indistinct yet undeniably present. Rachel gasped, clutching Emily's arm. "It's watching us," she stammered. The figure didn't move, but the sense of being observed was overwhelming. Jake took a cautious step forward, raising his utility knife defensively. "Show yourself," he shouted, his voice echoing into the void. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the shadow began to change. Its edges shimmered, becoming less opaque and more defined. What emerged was unlike anything they had ever seen. A tall, slender being with translucent skin that refracted light like glass. Its features were angular, almost alien, but not entirely unfamiliar. Two large, almond-shaped eyes glowed faintly, locking onto each member of the team in turn. No one spoke. The creature tilted its head slightly, as if studying them. Emily raised her hand slowly, palms outward, in a gesture of peace. "We're not here to harm you," she said softly, though she doubted it understood her words. The being paused, then extended a long, delicate limb toward the crystal tower. A soft chime rang out, followed by a series of melodic tones that reverberated through the air. Alex stared at his scanner, which now displayed a single, unbroken waveform. "It's communicating," he breathed, his voice filled with wonder. The realization hit them all at once. They weren't alone on Epsilon 9, and whatever these beings were, they had been waiting for humanity to arrive. End of document. The melodic tones continued to fill the air, resonating softly against the crystal towers and echoing back in harmonious waves. The team stood frozen, their eyes locked on the translucent being before them. Its glowing eyes seemed to pierce through them, as if trying to understand their presence just as much as they were trying to comprehend its. Emily took a slow step forward, her hand still raised in a gesture of peace. "We mean no harm," she repeated, her voice steady despite the knot of fear tightening in her chest. The being tilted its head again, then emitted another series of chimes. This time, the sound was accompanied by a faint vibration that rippled through the ground beneath their feet. Alex glanced down at his scanner, which had finally stabilized enough to display coherent data. "It's some kind of signal," he said, adjusting the device. "Like a language." Rachel moved closer to him, peering over his shoulder. "Can you translate it?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. He shook his head. "Not yet, but maybe we can record it and analyze it later." Jake remained near the edge of the group, his flashlight trained on the alien figure. Though the creature hadn't shown any signs of aggression, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking a fine line between curiosity and danger. "Should we really be this close?" he muttered under his breath, gripping his utility knife tighter. Emily shot him a quick glance but didn't respond. She was too focused on the being, watching every subtle movement it made. After a long moment, the alien lowered its arm and stepped back slightly. It turned its gaze toward the largest crystal tower, emitting a single clear tone. The crystals around them responded almost instantly, their glow intensifying until the entire area was bathed in soft, pulsating light. Emily followed its gaze, realizing that the structure seemed to be reacting directly to the creature's actions. "It's connected to the crystals somehow," she said aloud, her mind racing with possibilities. Rachel nodded, pointing to the markings they had noticed earlier. "Those symbols, they must mean something important. Maybe they're instructions or warnings." Her words sparked an idea in Alex's mind. "What if the crystals are part of their communication system?" he suggested. "They could be using them to send messages, or even store information." Encouraged by the lack of hostility, Emily decided to take a risk. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small recording device. Holding it up carefully, she pressed the button to activate it. The alien watched her intently, its expression unreadable. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then, slowly, it extended its limb once more and emitted another series of tones. The recorder captured the sounds perfectly, filling the team with cautious hope. As the alien finished, it paused and tilted its head again, as if waiting for a response. Emily hesitated, unsure how to proceed. "Do we try to mimic it?" she asked, looking at her teammates. Alex shrugged. "Worth a shot," he replied. Taking a deep breath, Emily hummed one of the simpler tones she had heard. The alien's eyes brightened slightly, and it let out a softer, almost melodic reply. The interaction felt surreal, like two strangers fumbling through a first conversation without shared words. Over the next few minutes, the team experimented cautiously, playing back recorded tones and attempting to replicate them. Each attempt seemed to intrigue the alien further, prompting it to respond with increasingly complex sequences. Though they couldn't fully understand each other, a fragile connection began to form. But as the night wore on, the atmosphere shifted subtly. The alien's movements became slower, more deliberate. When it finally stepped back toward the shadows, the team realized it was preparing to leave. Before disappearing completely, it emitted one final tone, a deep, resonant note that lingered in the air long after it was gone. Standing in silence, the team exchanged uneasy glances. They had made contact, but what did it mean? And why had the being chosen to reveal itself now, after remaining hidden for so long? *** End of document. ***. The next morning, the team gathered inside the habitat module to review what had happened the night before. The recording device sat on the table, its small screen displaying a series of waveforms that corresponded to the alien's melodic tones. Alex replayed the sounds, listening intently as he adjusted his scanner. "There's a pattern here," he said, tapping the screen. "It's not random noise. It's structured, like music or speech." Rachel leaned closer, her brow furrowed in concentration. "If it's a language, we need to figure out how it works. Maybe we can find a way to respond." Emily nodded, her mind racing with possibilities. "We've already established some kind of basic communication," she said. "But if we want to understand them better, we'll need to do more than just mimic their sounds." Jake, seated near the corner of the room, remained quiet. His thoughts were still focused on the alien's sudden appearance and disappearance. "Do you think it was testing us?" he asked finally, breaking the silence. "Like seeing if we could keep up?" Emily considered this for a moment. "Maybe," she replied. "Or maybe it was trying to warn us about something." Determined to build on their progress, the team decided to experiment further with the crystals. Earlier observations had shown that the structures reacted to touch and sound, so they theorized that these might serve as a bridge for communication. Using portable speakers, they set up a makeshift system near the largest crystal tower. Alex programmed the device to play back the recorded tones at varying frequencies, while Rachel monitored the crystal's responses. At first, nothing seemed to happen. The crystals remained still, their faint glow unchanged. But as Alex adjusted the pitch of the tones, a low hum began to resonate through the air. The ground beneath their feet vibrated gently, and the crystals started to pulse in sync with the sounds. "It's working," Rachel exclaimed, her voice tinged with excitement. "They're responding." Encouraged by the reaction, Emily stepped forward and placed her hand on the surface of the nearest crystal. She closed her eyes, focusing on the vibrations coursing through her palm. Slowly, she began humming one of the simpler tones they had recorded. The crystal's glow intensified, and a soft chime echoed in response. The team exchanged astonished looks, realizing they were making real progress. However, their success was short-lived. As they continued experimenting, the harmonious tones shifted abruptly, becoming sharp and discordant. The crystal's glow turned an ominous shade of red, and the ground trembled violently. Jake stumbled backward, shouting, "What did we do wrong?" Emily quickly pulled her hand away, her heart pounding. "Stop the playback," she ordered. Alex fumbled with the controls, cutting off the sound. The tremors subsided almost immediately, and the crystals returned to their usual faint glow. Breathing heavily, the team regrouped, their earlier excitement replaced by unease. "We pushed too far," Rachel said softly, staring at the crystals. "Whatever we triggered, it didn't like it." Emily nodded grimly. "We need to be careful. These beings are clearly intelligent, but they're also protective of their territory, or maybe even their technology." Later that evening, as they reviewed the data from the experiment, Alex noticed something unusual in the recordings. Hidden within the alien's tones was a repeating sequence, a fragment of sound that stood out from the rest. "This part keeps coming up," he explained, pointing to the waveform on his tablet. "It's like a key phrase, maybe." Intrigued, Emily suggested using the sequence as a starting point for future interactions. "If we focus on this specific tone, we might be able to establish clearer communication," she said. "But we have to approach it carefully. We don't want another reaction like today." As night fell, the team prepared for another attempt. Armed with their findings and a renewed sense of caution, they returned to the crystal tower. This time, they played only the isolated sequence, waiting anxiously for a response. For several tense minutes, there was nothing but silence. Then, from somewhere deep within the structure, a single clear tone rang out, followed by the familiar shimmering form of the alien. It moved closer this time, stopping just a few feet away. Its glowing eyes locked onto Emily, who held her breath. Slowly, it extended its limb toward her, emitting a soft, melodic note. Emily hesitated, then reached out cautiously, letting her fingers brush against the translucent skin. A surge of warmth spread through her hand, accompanied by a flood of images: crystalline landscapes, swirling galaxies, and shadowy figures retreating into the stars. When the vision faded, Emily staggered back, her eyes wide with awe. "They're refugees," she whispered, her voice trembling. "They came here to escape something. Something terrible." The revelation left the team stunned. Emily stood frozen, her mind racing to process the flood of images she had seen when she touched the alien. She turned to her teammates, her voice shaking as she tried to explain. "They didn't come here by choice," she said. "They were running from something or someone." The others exchanged uneasy glances, unsure how to respond. Rachel broke the silence first. "Running from what?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Emily shook her head. "I don't know. But it was big, powerful. Whatever it was, it chased them across the stars." Alex frowned, his fingers tapping nervously on his scanner. "If they're refugees, then this planet isn't just a home. It's a hiding place. That explains why they've stayed hidden for so long." Jake nodded slowly, his hand resting on the hilt of his utility knife. "And now we've shown up with our ships and equipment, blundering around like we own the place." The alien still lingered nearby, its glowing eyes fixed on Emily. It emitted another soft tone, this one tinged with urgency. Emily hesitated, then mimicked the sound as best she could. The alien tilted its head, seemingly satisfied, and gestured toward the crystal tower. Its movements were deliberate, almost instructional. "It wants us to follow," Emily said, stepping forward cautiously. The others hesitated but eventually fell into step behind her. As they approached the base of the tower, the alien pressed its limb against the crystal surface. A section of the structure shimmered and dissolved, revealing a narrow passageway illuminated by faint, pulsating light. The team exchanged wary looks. "Are we really doing this?" Jake asked, his voice tight with apprehension. Emily nodded firmly. "We need answers. If we want to understand them and figure out how to coexist, we have to trust them." One by one, they entered the passage, their footsteps echoing softly against the smooth, glass-like walls. The air inside was cool and carried a faint hum, as if the entire structure was alive. The alien led them deeper, its translucent form casting prismatic reflections on the walls. After several minutes, they emerged into a vast chamber filled with towering spires of crystal. At the center of the room was a large, circular platform etched with intricate patterns that glowed faintly in the dim light. The alien moved to the platform and emitted a series of tones, each one triggering a response from the crystals around them. Images began to project onto the walls, scenes of destruction, fleeing ships, and shadowy figures wielding weapons unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Rachel gasped, clutching Emily's arm. "That's what they're running from," she whispered. "But who, or what, are those things?" Alex adjusted his scanner, attempting to capture as much data as possible. "This is incredible," he murmured, his voice filled with awe. "It's like a historical record, a warning." Emily nodded, her expression grim. "They're showing us their story. They want us to understand what happened to them." The final image depicted the aliens arriving on Epsilon 9, their ships cloaked in shimmering energy fields. As the vision faded, the alien turned to face the team, its glowing eyes filled with a mixture of hope and caution. It emitted a single clear tone, one they had heard before during their earlier experiments. This time, however, its meaning was unmistakable. "Help us, *." Emily stepped forward, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "We'll do what we can," she promised. "But you'll have to trust us too." The alien tilted its head, as if considering her words. Then, with a soft chime, it extended its limb once more. Emily reached out, her fingers brushing against its translucent skin. Another surge of warmth spread through her hand, accompanied by a new set of images. This time, showing humanity working alongside the aliens, repairing the planet's energy field and stabilizing the crystals. When the vision ended, Emily turned to her teammates, her resolve stronger than ever. "We can't leave them like this," she said. "If we abandon them now, we're no better than whatever chased them here." Rachel nodded, her earlier fear replaced by determination. "Then we stay. We fix what we broke, and we learn." As they exited the chamber, The alien lingered behind, watching them silently. Though the path ahead would be fraught with challenges, one thing was certain. Humanity's arrival on Epsilon 9 had changed everything, for both species. End of document. The team returned to the habitat module with a renewed sense of purpose. Emily led the discussion, her voice calm but firm as she outlined their next steps. "We've damaged their energy field," she began, pointing to the readings Alex had gathered earlier. "If we don't fix it, the crystals could destabilize, and that would put both us and them at risk." Rachel nodded, flipping through her notes on the glowing plants they had found near the towers. "The vegetation is connected to the crystals somehow," she added. "If the energy field collapses, it might affect the entire ecosystem." Jake leaned against the wall, his arms crossed tightly over his chest. "And what about those things chasing them?" he asked, his tone sharp with concern. "What happens if they show up while we're still here?" Emily hesitated before responding. "That's why we need to act quickly. The sooner we stabilize the energy field, the better chance we have of keeping everyone safe, including ourselves." Alex spread out a map of the area on the table, marking key locations where the crystals seemed most active. "If we focus our efforts here," he said, tapping one of the spots, "we might be able to redirect some of the energy back into the system." Emily agreed, adding, "But we'll need more data first. We can't afford any mistakes." Over the next few days, the team worked tirelessly, setting up sensors and running tests around the clock. The alien appeared occasionally, observing their progress from a distance. It never interfered but seemed to communicate its approval or disapproval through subtle changes in the crystal's glow. When the team made a misstep, the light dimmed slightly. When they succeeded, it brightened, almost as if cheering them on. Despite their determination, tensions ran high. The constant hum of the crystals and the eerie whispers that lingered in the air weighed heavily on everyone. One evening, after hours of troubleshooting a malfunctioning sensor, Alex snapped at Rachel. "Why does everything here have to be so complicated?" he muttered, throwing down his tools in frustration. Rachel sighed, rubbing her temples. "Because this isn't Earth," she replied quietly. "We're dealing with something completely alien. Of course it's going to be hard." Emily intervened before the argument could escalate. "We're all tired," she said, her tone gentle but firm. "But we can't give up now. Every step we take brings us closer to fixing this. For them and for us." Her words seemed to ease the tension, and the group pressed on, united by their shared goal. By the fourth day, they began to see results. The energy readings stabilized slightly, and the crystal's glow became steadier, less erratic. The alien approached them again, this time closer than before. It emitted a series of melodic tones, which Alex recorded carefully. "I think it's thanking us," he said, a hint of pride in his voice. Emily smiled faintly. "Let's hope so." But just as things started to improve, disaster struck. A sudden surge of energy rippled through the field, causing several of their devices to short-circuit. The ground trembled violently, and the crystals emitted a harsh, discordant sound. The alien darted forward, its movements frantic as it gestured toward the largest tower. Emily understood immediately. "Something's wrong with the core," she shouted. "We need to get there, now." The team sprinted toward the tower, their hearts pounding as the tremors grew stronger. When they arrived, they found the structure pulsating wildly, its light flickering between blinding brightness and near darkness. The alien stood nearby, emitting urgent tones that echoed painfully in their ears. "It's trying to tell us how to fix it," Rachel yelled over the noise. Emily nodded, her mind racing. She grabbed Alex's scanner, analyzing the patterns in the alien sounds. "There's a sequence here," she called out. "We need to replicate it." Working together, the team adjusted their equipment, playing back the tones in the correct order. Slowly, the vibrations began to subside, and the crystal's glow returned to its usual rhythm. The alien let out a soft chime, its posture relaxing visibly. For the first time since their arrival, the air felt calm. As they regrouped, exhaustion evident on their faces, Emily spoke softly. "We did it. For now, anyway." But deep down, she knew the real challenge was far from over. Humanity's presence on Epsilon 9 had changed the balance, and only time would tell whether peace was possible. End of document. The days that followed were a mix of relief and reflection. The team had managed to stabilize the energy field, but the experience left them deeply aware of how fragile their situation was. They spent hours discussing what they had learned about the aliens, their history, their struggles, and their desperation to remain hidden. Emily often found herself replaying the visions she had seen when she touched the alien skin. The images of fleeing ships and shadowy pursuers haunted her, raising questions she couldn't answer. Why did they choose this planet? She wondered aloud one evening as the group gathered around the habitat module. Alex leaned back in his chair, tapping his pen against his notebook. "It's isolated," he said. "Far from major trade routes or human colonies. If you're trying to stay out of sight, this is the perfect place." Rachel nodded, adding, "And the crystals. They're like a shield. The energy field hides them even better than their cloaking technology." Jake frowned, his gaze fixed on the glowing towers in the distance. "But hiding isn't enough if we keep showing up with our scanners and experiments. We're drawing attention to them." Emily sighed, rubbing her temples. "That's why we need to leave behind something that helps them after we're gone," she said firmly. "A way to monitor the energy field without causing more damage." Alex raised an eyebrow. "Like what? A remote beacon?" Emily nodded. "Exactly. Something simple, self-sustaining, and non-intrusive. It could alert us, or them, if anything goes wrong again." The idea sparked a flurry of activity. Over the next few days, the team worked together to design and build the beacon using spare parts from the SS Horizon *. Alex handled the technical side, programming it to transmit data directly to Earth while remaining undetectable by other species. Rachel contributed by studying the crystal formations further, ensuring the device wouldn't disrupt the delicate balance they had restored. Meanwhile, Jake scouted locations for the beacon's placement, choosing a spot near the largest tower where the energy field was strongest. As they prepared to deploy the beacon, the alien appeared once more. It watched silently as they carried the device to its designated location, its glowing eyes following their every move. When they activated the beacon, a soft hum filled the air, blending seamlessly with the natural vibrations of the crystals. The alien tilted its head, then emitted a series of melodic tones that seemed almost approving. "I think it likes it," Rachel said with a small smile. Emily nodded, feeling a rare moment of satisfaction. "Good. That means we've done at least one thing right." Before leaving the site, Emily approached the alien cautiously. She held out her hand, hoping to establish another connection. To her surprise, the being extended its limb, allowing her fingers to brush against its translucent skin. Once again, warmth surged through her, accompanied by a flood of new images. This time, she saw glimpses of gratitude, scenes of the aliens working alongside humans, sharing knowledge and protecting each other. When the vision faded, tears welled up in her eyes. "They trust us now," she whispered, turning to face her teammates. "We can't let them down." The final preparations for departure took longer than expected, but no one complained. They packed up their equipment carefully, ensuring nothing was left behind that could harm the planet or its inhabitants. On their last night, the team gathered outside the habitat module, staring up at the unfamiliar stars. The alien joined them briefly, standing just beyond the edge of the light. Its presence was comforting, a reminder of the bond they had formed despite the vast differences between their species. As dawn broke over Epsilon 9, the *SS Horizon * lifted off, carrying its crew back toward Earth. From the viewport, Emily watched the crystalline structures shrink into the distance, their faint glow fading into the planet's misty atmosphere. She felt a pang of sadness but also hope. Humanity had made its first real contact with an alien species, not through conquest or conflict, but through cooperation and understanding. Back on Earth, the team knew their work would only begin. They had stories to tell, lessons to share, and a warning to deliver. The universe was far larger and far stranger than anyone had imagined, and humanity's role in it was just beginning. ****End of document ****.